This meeting will be held in accordance with California Government Code Section 59453, subdivision of the Ralph M. Brown Act, California Government Code Section 54950, Series Resolution number 2021-121, and the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act. While this meeting will be physically open to the public, given the state of emergency regarding the threat of COVID-19, members of the public may also participate and comment via application Zoom. Zoom meeting information was posted on the agenda. Remote public comment is also available for the City Council meeting by emailing the City Clerk at cityclerk@ci.series.caus by 5 p.m. the day of the meeting, included on the agenda item, number, or public comment period in the subject line of the email. The clerk may read written comment into the record if specifically requested to do so at the beginning of your email. Your written comment will be distributed to the City Council and kept on file as part of your official record of the council meeting. Welcome. Today is a joint City Council regular meeting and successor agency to the former Series Redevelopment Agency and the successor agency to the Stanislaus Series Redevelopment Commission meeting. Today, December 13th, 2021. Now I'll call this meeting to order. If we can get a roll call, please.
Council and Agency Member Casey. Council and Agency Member Rhino. Here. Vice Mayor, Vice Chair Silver.
Here.
Council and Agency Member.
Here.
Mayor and Chairman Lopez.
Here. And we'll begin with the invocation by Pastor Tim Ginosa from Big Valley Grace Series.
Father, we come to you and we thank you for your gracious, merciful kindness that you have towards us. We thank you for the people who are assembled here today who serve you, serve this community, to serve one another, who offer sacrifices to each other of their time, resources, their knowledge, and their skill. Father, that you would give them wisdom and understanding and discernment that is even beyond themselves. We would be appreciative of them, and we would be mindful of the sacrifices that they made. So today, Lord, may your hand be on this meeting, and may you guide it, and may there be constant thought as to what is best for the people of Ceres, this community. They can serve those that they've been asked to represent. So thank you. In your name, we
Amen. Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today we have a presentation, Voters Legislative Changes and Education Workshop, Stanislaus County Register of Voters. Welcome.
Mayor, council members. I'm Donna Linder, Stanislaus County Clerk Recorder, Register of Voters. And
Is there any way you can possibly move the microphone towards you a little bit? There you go.
Sure.
There you go. Thank you.
I could probably yell just as loud. I just wanted to come out and talk to the council members about some events that we have coming up and let the citizens of Ceres know about those. Next slide, please. We're going to be doing some voter education workshops. We're going to answer questions for our citizens of Stanislaus County, things about our department. We get questions all the time. Is this a full-time job? So we're going to tell them some things that we do. What do we do there? Registration, how to register, who's eligible to register, that kind of thing. How to cast your ballot, how to mark it, where to sign on the envelope, just your basics. Current election laws. The election laws have been changing quite a bit over the last couple of years, and we just want to let our citizens know what's happening with the way we vote in our county. What they can expect from Stanislaus County, and ways that they can get their ballot back to us for us to count it, and then what happens to it when it gets to us. So if you send your vote by mail in, what happens to it? What do we do in our office with that ballot? So we'll go through the whole life cycle of a vote by mail ballot and all the things that we do to process it. And then we always talk about canvass. The law says we have 30 days to canvass. What does that actually mean, and what are we doing in the office while we're doing that canvass? So letting them know about that. We have put many security features into place over the last 2 years, and we want to let our citizens know that we take very seriously the integrity of the election and the security of their vote. And so we're going to show them some of those security features that we've implemented. And then last but not least, opportunities to be involved. So next slide. So we have our workshop dates. We're doing one in every city. Series is January 25th at the Series American Legion Hall, but citizens can go to any workshop. They start at 6 o'clock. We're there as long as we need to answer questions. So they can attend any one of those if they happen to live here, but it's easier for them to go to the one in Oakdale, then by all means, attend whichever one that you would like to get this information. Slide. So we also wanted to just remind you that we always are looking for help. We have part-time seasonal employee positions open. They start at $16.62 an hour. We do extensive training for these positions. We hired in for November of 2020, about 174 people within a few weeks. And so we would like to hire them a little more spread out. So we're looking for people right now and have that recruitment open and are doing training on that. And then we still have our, next slide, our, oh, I missed one, sorry. We still have our part-time positions where, our volunteer positions where they work just during the election. We do now have vote centers, so they're open many more days. So those people are called upon for more than just one day, but it's just for that event. And then if they come back, great, but it's a volunteer position with a $95 stipend. And all of these positions can be found on our website at standvote.com. And then that's it. Thank you for having me. If you have questions or comments, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. We do have one question.
I had the question, Mayor. So I see this is going out. Is this going out, this information, to all registered voters or all citizens that are eligible to vote in the Stanislaus County?
We have not done a mailing. We have 282,000 registered voters, so mailing is quite expensive. We have sent it to the media. I'm speaking to the city council members. I'll be at our board of supervisors tomorrow morning. We have it on Facebook, any place we can get it out. And that's why we're here, is to try and get more information out.
Would citizens be able to register to vote at these workshops?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any members of the public have any questions? Step up, please.
I think we have a problem in this county, probably the state, in the United States. But I know I've addressed this to the police department, addressed this for many years to the city council, old and the new. My question to you is I've never seen this before. I think it's a great thing. I'm all for teaching people how to adjust and acclimate to our community, let alone the rest of society. They can vote for whatever they want to. But you didn't mention anything about helping the individuals, and we have a lot of them in this county that don't speak English. And there's multiple languages. My wife speaks several languages. But some of these people want to vote, and they might not have the chance if they don't understand. So what are you going to do for those individuals? Are you going to reach out to them?
So flyer is in English and Spanish, and we do have 3 other languages that Stanislaus County supports. And that information will also be talked about in the workshop. I just gave you a snippet of what's going to be on there. So we are talking about all of these other things that we do for our citizens. We have recently had here in Ceres a Punjabi meeting where we invited the Punjabi community and we talked to them and gave them information about voting. So we do reach out to our other languages and have meetings just for those languages, but they're welcome to come to these workshops too.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? You have any members on Zoom that have any questions with their hands raised? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Moving on to citizens communication. While the city council welcomes and encourages participation in city council meetings, adopt the rules allow no more than 5 minutes. Resolution 2007-106 for expression of non-agenda items, matter under the jurisdiction of the city council and not posted on the agenda. May be addressed by the general public. However, California law prohibits the city council from taking any action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the city council. Citizens are entitled to address the city council on any agenda item subject to the 5-minute provision. Do we have any members of the public that want to speak during this time?
Dave Pratt of Series. I want to congratulate you. The traffic's messed up on Mitchell Road and Hatch. Also messed up at the high school in Whitmore. And now it's messed up on Mitchell Road from Whitmore to the freeways. Now I'm going to be one of those taking alternative routes away from that. Only unfortunately, it's you can't get away from going to Modesto that way, and really we need that second bridge. Needs prior to get traffic moving across the river. Like last time, it took me an hour and a half to get across the river to Oakdale Road. Also, you guys get money for the bike trails and pedestrian trails. You use any of that money to repair them? I don't know about all of them, but I know the one that I travel a lot is getting these fissures and started out one crack. Now there's a whole lot of them. They're starting to widen. But I want to know if you guys do any steel work to repair these trails, or you just put them in like the parks and forget them, let them go after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt. Is Jeremy on Zoom?
Jeremy, I'll unmute your mic.
Jeremy, I was hoping if you could answer that question, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, so the bike paths are all repaired and maintained on a monthly basis. So if Mr. Pratt has a specific request, you can let me know, let the office know, and we'll go out and take care of whatever the problem is. I'm not sure that we're aware of any issues. I haven't heard of any anyway.
I know you're not repairing them on a monthly basis, but take a look at the one that's along the canal between Hatch and Fowler Road, please. Thank you.
And specifically, what are we looking for?
Mr. Pratt, what specifically are we looking for?
Well, I just wondering if they're going to repair all these cracks and stuff, or just let the weather take care of them. And you know, you get vehicles drive up down those things, and it started out with one crack all the way across, and now these there's a whole lot of them, and they're starting getting wider.
We'll get them.
Basically, it's just a fill job in these different where they fill up the cracks.
We'll look at them.
I don't know about the other parts of the trails because I don't normally ride the other trails. I don't know if they're doing the same thing.
We'll look
Thank
at
you,
it,
Mr.
Mr. Pratt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Anyone else?
Gene Akeley series. It's hard to, of course, the city council and anybody else in administration in the city to remember stuff, but on October 25th, 2021, at the regular city council meeting, I brought up an issue about code enforcement and a Sirius Police Department not going and answering calls for vending, which is just one of the issues that we have in the city. But evidently there was a decision made somewhere, and some individuals think it's behind closed doors. And I wanted to bring this up to the city at that particular time and times before too. I just want an answer, and nobody seemed to figure out how I could put someone on the books. What do you call that word? I can't even think of it. Not amendment. What do you call that?
On the agenda?
Agenda, excuse me, the agenda. And they asked the city attorney too. He was perplexed. He didn't even know either if he could do that. But I think the citizens of Ceres need answers. And in the past, you know, not always, but quite a few times in the previous councils, and Mike Klein, since you're here tonight, you'll understand. And so will Linda Rhino. We've got answers from the city manager to people up here on the podium asking a question. And we've had answers from the previous mayor, Mayor Vera. He answered questions too. So I don't know what the hide thing is that we can't answer some of these citizens' questions out front because it's not on the agenda. But if it's on the agenda, do we get an answer? That's what I'd really like to know. And when this VIP thing comes forward, and I understand now that we're, you know, maybe the people here tonight don't know that one of the code enforcement personnel is going to leave, and that's going to be one person for code enforcement. Now, is the Ceres Police Department going to take over the extra part if they possibly can to help code enforcement out? And what happens after hours, after 5 o'clock, somewhere between 4 and 5 o'clock, sometimes I've been told code enforcement's in the process of going home. So we have to have some after hours, and now it's Christmas time, of course. There's not enough people out there trying to sell us stuff in the shopping centers and stuff. But eventually spring will come, and this will be back to the normal progress of people trying to, you know, filter money away from store owners. And I noticed again to the paper recently, I think there was something about congratulating some new business owners in town. What do they think when they see somebody selling stuff in the parking lot across the street that might even have something to do with the items that they're selling or the services that have to do with? So I just want answers in this amendment thing. Figure it out, because on the 25th, Mayor Lopez, you told me that you would take care of this and you get back to me. It's been over 2 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yakeley.
Good evening, council members. John Warren, City of Ceres. Just to kind of follow up on Mr. Jean's comment in reference to vendors. This weekend, even though we did have some fairly decent weather, I noticed on several street corners, one prominent one being the intersection of Hatch and Mitchell Road, vendors out there selling flowers. I mean, the northwest corner sidewalk was completely blocked by the vendor with all his little buckets of flowers and toys and teddy bears. And I don't know how many Ceres police officers must have passed that intersection on their routine patrol. Now, I know it's been decided that our police department doesn't want to be involved in that type of activity, but I really think it's necessary that they be the officers that we hired them for and enforce all the rules and regulations as they come upon them in the city during their shift, especially in light of the fact that we're probably going to be short one code enforcement person who's going to spend half his time in the office now because there's not a secretary there to help field some of the calls. So it's really, really necessary for our police department to step up as they are in charge of code enforcement. That rests with our police department, unless that job or that duty is going to get moved to some place else in the city and someone else can pick up the slack when it's needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Chief, I just have a quick question. Are we actively in the process of hiring a new code enforcement officer?
Yes, we are. The recruitment went out last week, if I'm not mistaken, and the code enforcement secretary is currently in background.
Thank you, Chief. Any more questions from the public? Anybody on Zoom?
Matt, I'll mute your mic. Mic is on.
Good evening, council. I would like to start off by thanking Mike Klein for stepping up. And I already thanked him personally, but I would like to thank him publicly. And I just have a couple of things I'd like to say. I had a positive experience with code enforcement. I don't want to elaborate right now, but they took care of the problem within 2 days. And then basically, you know, always the speeding. I mean, I know I saw in the paper that we compounded or got a couple of cars, you know, for people racing. But, you know, it's almost getting out of hand. You know, there are these vehicles running around, the Mustangs, the Camaros, the Hellcats. And I mean, these guys are getting ridiculous. Even today, during rain, somebody was flying down Central, you know, and I know that the police department is doing what they can, but it's really getting out of hand. And then you also talk about the vendors. There is a lady who sets up on Central, kind of across from Sequoia Market. I don't believe it's Dara, but she's selling tamales out there, you know, and I mean, that's a food source, you know, and I mean, that would be a health department issue. But anyway, I would like to take the time to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And let's hope 2022 gets a little bit better. I just heard tonight that state of California, if you're in a public building, even if you are vaccinated, you still have to start wearing a mask again. So anyway, like I said, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and take care.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Citizen communication is now closed. Moving on to consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar considered routine in nature, will be enacted by a single motion unless otherwise requested by an individual council member or public for special consideration. Otherwise, the recommendations of staff will be accepted and acted upon a roll call vote. We'll begin with if there's anybody from Zoom who wants to pull an item.
Go
None?
ahead, sir.
Do we have anybody in chamber today that would like to pull an item? Go ahead, step up, sir.
Number 6.
Number 6, thank you. Okay, council members.
I wanted to pull number 6 as well and number 8.
Number 8. Okay, items number 6 and 8 have been pulled. I can get a motion for the rest of them.
I move to adopt 1, 2, 3A, 4, 5A, 7, 9, and 10.
Second,
Get a roll call.
Councilman Agency Member Casey,
Aye.
Councilman Agency Member Rhino,
yes.
Vice Mayor and Vice Chair Silvera,
Yes.
Councilman Agency Member Klein,
Yes.
Mayor and Chairman Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Number 6, final adoption of ordinance number 2021-1069, an ordinance on the City Council of the City of Ceres adopting a rezone to change the zoning destination from community commercial to high-density multiple family residential for the subject property located at 2125 Moffett Road. Council, would you like to speak on it first? Yeah. Go ahead and step up, sir, if you want to speak on number 6, please.
Good evening, council members. Again, John Warren. I asked that this be pulled because Mr. Klein wasn't here when this was first brought to the council. And because I have some concerns about that particular project. And the biggest concern is that all the large vehicles that enter that property can't make a turn and exit that property by driving straight out. They have to back out. Garbage trucks, when they go in there to pick up the garbage, have to back out onto the street, onto Moffett, close to that Garrison intersection. And the gardener, if he has a trailer, he can't turn around in there because the driveway is only about 30 or 32 feet wide. And it takes a lot more than that for a pickup truck just to turn around by itself. The UPS brown trucks that are going to make deliveries there every day, the Prime vans that Amazon drives are all large vehicles, and they're all going to have to back out onto the street to proceed with their daily activities. And that's just a large number of vehicles backing. And those people that are involved in law enforcement, such as Mr. Silvera, knows that vehicles, when they back up, are an extreme hazard. You can't see small children behind them. You can't see people or cars. And when you're sitting 30 or 40 feet in the driver's seat of a vehicle, such as a garbage truck or a large moving van that might be bringing property there to the facility because someone's moving in or someone's moving out, they have to back up out onto the street. And when they're loading and unloading, everybody in front of them that's blocked in, they can't get out. And for that moving van to move back out onto the street to allow some resident that's renting an apartment to go to work or go about their daily life, drive back in there, continue with their work day of loading or unloading, whatever they're doing, it's just not a good thing to have happen. When the Planning Commission looked at this project, I think it was back in August, I physically counted each of the parking spaces that were supposed to be made available. And when I counted the parking spaces that were on the plat map, there wasn't 56 of them. There was like 57 or 55. There were 1 or 2 parking spaces short of what they said was supposed to have been there. And if there's no handicap people living in those apartments, the 2 handicap spots that are way up in front can't be utilized by anybody. So right there, you don't have enough parking spaces for the number of apartments that are required. The other problem is the size of the parking spaces. A large number of those parking spaces there are for small vehicles. So when you come home in your big pickup truck and there's a small car parked in a large space, where are you going to park? Now you have to go to the back where the small spaces are and park in 2 spots. So now that's 3 that aren't going to be available. There's just any number of problems that are going to be created just from the parking aspect of this project. I think it's noteworthy. The city does need housing, but until the parking and the ingress and egress of this property is worked out to where it's safer for the people driving on and off and the people exiting and entering that project, I think it needs to be voted no. And I encourage the council tonight to take a second look and maybe put this off until those problems can be worked out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Council member?
As you know, I voted no on this when I first heard it. And I wanted it pulled because I couldn't vote for it because we still have the same issues. We have traffic along Moffett. I'm sure most of us travel that way, know how bad traffic is. Only one driveway in and out. And even though Mr. Warren comments on, the backing up big vehicles and everything, that's an issue. But what we're being asked to do is change the rezoning and the general plan amendment to allow housing. It's not permitted there. We have to make that change. We have to change the general plan and the zoning ordinance to allow it. And I can agree that we do have a lack of residential properties, but I also looked at the planning commission for the last year, and January 19th, they approved 20 units. February 1st, they approved a 10 unit. February 16th, it was 7 single family residences. May, it was 107 residential lots. And I think we have the potential to have enough housing, but I don't think that we need to put housing when we don't have adequate care given towards the existing traffic. And like I said at the meeting where we discussed it, that even though the proponent said commercial would put more traffic on that property, I don't believe it would, because if it's developed as it was proposed, there's only one driveway in and out, one ingress, one egress. If it's commercial as it's been zoned and on the general plan, and it's developed, then they would be required to have a reciprocal access easement, which would give them another driveway in and out of that property through the Richland Shopping Center. So, maybe we need more housing. We have some more coming, but I still don't think we should just put it somewhere when we already have traffic issues. So for that reason, I won't be able to vote for it again.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Klein.
Yeah, first I'd like to apologize to Christopher Holm for not copying him on my previous questions today when it said contact James Michaels. So, the concerns I had when I looked through this thing was, sound barrier wall between the proposed apartment complex and the Dollar General Richland Center parking lot. And it was addressed and things like that. But the other concern, and I didn't reach out, is what our actual municipal code says as far as a noise ordinance and when it's allowed. And we want to make sure that the businesses in Richland Shopping Center are aware that, when the time frame is, when they can have suitable deliveries, so we don't have an issue come down in the future when, deliveries are coming here and we don't have a set standard for them. Because I know in the past, we've had issues with people complaining about noise or whatever and not being aware of what the time restraints are. So I think that's a concern. The other thing is I have a little concern about the lack of the school district's response on the impact of the schools. You got an impact of Carol Fowler, May Hensley Junior High, and they didn't respond respond on the impact because, it's a developed neighborhood and you just can't put a new school in those areas. So those are concerns of mine, but on the other hand, I look at this project and I'm saying, what else could we use in that facility in that area? And I can't think of anything else because, that is the back of a shopping center, and to put more shops back there, to me, they'd be lost. So I can support this project.
Thank you, council member. The council members would like to speak? Go ahead, Casey.
I'd like to follow up on Councilperson Rhino, Mr. Warren. I travel that road often in the morning, and already there's no parking on either side of the street, clear up till the first entries into the Richland Shopping Center. I also have a task of picking up my granddaughter, May Hensley, after. Sometimes we come down that way, and today was one of those sometimes. And the traffic is pretty bad, and I fear not so much for the trucks that back up or back in and out of there, but just for the safety of children there at Carol Fowler. And for that reason, I can't support.
Okay, I have a few comments. First of all, to put everybody at ease about the parking spaces in the project. It well meets the code for parking spaces. There are absolutely no issues with parking spaces, just like the apartment complex next door. Police, fire, and all of the utilities approved this plan, and that's stated in the staff report. So there's no issues about whether their trucks, whether they think their trucks can get in and out or turn around or any of that. That's all been decided, and they've all signed off on this. And the last thing is the Richland Center, owners of Richland Center are completely behind this project and are looking forward to finally having a great use for that lot that's been sitting there for as long as I've been in series with a big piece of dirt. So like Councilmember Klein said, I don't think there's anything else that would fit in that lot. So I definitely support this project.
Thank you, council. No more comments?
To approve number 6 on the consent calendar, 2021-1069.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Council and Agency Member Casey,
Opposed?
Council and Agency Member Rhino, Vice Mayor and Vice Chair Silvera,
Yes.
Council and Agency Member Klein,
Yes.
Mayor and Chairman Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2.
Item number 8, resolution 2021-128, authorizing a budget amendment, adding pavement rehabilitation scope to the design of the ATP SRTS Morgan Corridor Improvement Project.
I have a few questions for Mr. Royal. Has the project started on the SRTS on Morgan Road?
No, the design is still in place. We have the design almost at 100% complete. And the reason I'm asking for this budget amendment to do a rehab, we did some deflection study on Morgan Road, and they really needed it. There's a lot of elevator cracking that's happening, so there'll be a lot of dig outs and an overlay from Whitmore all the way to Service Road.
But should we wait and do the rehab on the asphalt itself once the sidewalks are in place? Because you don't want to do it now and then potentially tear up some of the asphalt to put the sidewalks in?
No, what happened is the sidewalk would be going first with the curb and gutter along the area that is needed some improvements. And then we'll come back with the grind and overlay throughout the corridor between Whitmore and Service.
When is the grant funding going to run out on the sidewalk project?
The grant funding?
Don't we have grant money for the sidewalk project?
Yes, correct. We have federal grant and also we have some matching grant, which is Measure L.
And when, isn't there a time frame for that, that we're gonna, if we don't have the project started or completed, that we'll lose that money?
Correct.
And
Yes,
when is that?
that would be the end of the year, end of 2022.
End of 2022.
Correct.
So by authorizing this budget amendment now and signing a contract with Jensen as our engineering, if something were to happen and that sidewalk project didn't get developed, we still have to pay this engineering firm, correct?
No, the sidewalk would have to go in first before we do any roadway improvements.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is if for some reason that sidewalk does not go in, and we've already tonight say that we are going to pay Jensen Engineering for the design of the roadway, isn't that money spent that we don't need to spend if that sidewalk project for some reason doesn't go through?
No, that's not,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
it's not true. First of all, we completed the design for the safe route to school, including the sidewalk and curb and gutter. And there's a section of that road in front of those 4 ranchettes that we're widening the road using the new pavement. However, we found out that additional roadway rehab needed to happen on Morgan Road. So the pavement would go in right after the curb and gutter goes in. I just want to clarify one thing, that the funding that I'm asking for is only for design purpose only, for the rehab design only.
I understand that, but what I'm trying to get across is why are we going to spend the design money already when the project hasn't even begun on the sidewalk? Because the design is for in front of those 4 ranchettes that are going to get the sidewalk, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so we haven't even begun construction on that, and yet you're coming and asking us to pay for a design to improve that road, but we don't even know if we're going to go forward with, if that sidewalk project is going to actually go forward.
Yes, I understand your point, Ms. Rhino. But I mean, the road really needs it. I mean, we don't have to do the roadway rehab right now. We could do the sidewalk and we could do the widening. We're doing a lot of striping along Morgan Road, and that involves with a lot of bike path, with a lot of lane shifting and a lot of improvements. So I hate to come back after we're doing all the new striping, come back and redo the road again, because we had to restripe that road again. And that's gonna be a huge cost for that long of a stretch of a road.
So are you saying that irregardless if we put in that sidewalk or not, that portion of Morgan Road needs to be redone?
Correct.
Okay.
We ran.
That's basically what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
It's not dependent on the sidewalk, but if the sidewalk project goes through, then that would be when we would actually do the repair work Morgan.
Correct,
If
yes.
it doesn't happen, we can still do the road repair.
Correct, yes.
Correct,
we could do
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Klein, did you have a question?
Well, yeah, I had a question, but it's going in a little bit different direction. Was this part of the capital improvement projects with my Measure L funds originally?
Yes, it was great. It was programmed that way. Yes, sir.
So it's been submitted to StanCog because I know you get road monies for capital improvements. So this is all part of the projects that were set in place, and are they in place for the 21-22 year, or they future capital improvements?
No, the Measure L was programmed in 1920.
So the money is already there for these road improvements.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more?
Wanna ask public
Yes,
before I
well,
make-
that's what I wanted to make sure the council, nothing else to say. Members of the public have any questions on this matter?
Ray Smith, series resident. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to thank Mr. Hallinan and Mr. Terreras as they agreed to a meeting with us in our representation this coming Wednesday regarding the Morgan Road corridor. Sorry if I pronounced your names not quite right. We are asked that you delay awarding the bid or hold off on starting the construction for 30 days after awarding the bid to give us time to resolve some safety issues we have with this project. Thank you. And may I ask a question on the timeline while I'm up here? That was brought up a little bit earlier.
Go ahead and ask a question. Go ahead.
So I just got a question on the grant for the end of 2022. Was I correct? Was that it has to be completed by then, or it has to be started by?
The project needs to start early summer and end by the end of the year, 2022.
So is that, you're saying that the grant, it has to be completed by the end of 2022 for the grant?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public have any more questions? Anybody on Zoom, Diane?
No hands are raised, Mayor.
Okay,
Can I ask one more question?
absolutely.
Because you said something. When you say the grant has to be spent by the end of 2022, are we talking the way the fiscal year works? So it's 21, 22. So we're talking June of 23?
No, sir. We're talking about the end of the year of 2022, which
Okay,
is December.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to adopt resolution number 2021-128.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council and Agency Member Casey,
Aye.
Council and Agency Member Rhino,
Yes.
Vice Mayor and Vice Chair Silvera,
Yes.
Council and Agency Member Klein,
Yes.
Mayor and Chairman Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business. Item number 11, Resolution 2021-115, approving formation of ad hoc Veterans and Active Military Banner Program Advisory Committee. We went ahead and went out and put applications online we have about 4 applicants at the moment. Nicholas, John Warren, Gene Yakley, George Richard King. Do any members of the public have any questions or asks today? Go ahead, step up, Mr. Yakley.
When this was brought up probably in the last council meeting, there was discussion among yourselves too, that the individuals, family members, or just people in general had to live in series to participate in this particular group. I've met the sergeant from the recruiting office there and Sergeant King. I personally went there before and talked to him. We had discussions about a few things like this, but not too much. He's a fine man. He served his country well. Happens to be a war veteran. But he doesn't live in Turlock. I asked him when I was there, I said, "Where do you live?" And he says, "I live in Turlock." So getting back to what the council was getting to on the last council meeting or the one before about how the process was going to go, I hate to not let him be in it, but he doesn't live in Ceres. I think he can help us quite a bit probably, but there's that thing that not living in Ceres. So when people participate in committees in the community, I hate to say it, but Sergeant King doesn't live here. Thank you.
Mr. Yegley, I got a question for you. Did he tell you what he does for the city of Ceres? Did he get into depth?
No, he didn't get any depth to
Okay,
that.
Sergeant King is a recruiter for the Army recruiting office out of
I know, I
Turlock.
went to his
So
office.
Ceres-
I sit down in his office with him.
Ceres- So Ceres is his jurisdiction. There's many young men
Right.
and women out of Ceres who are active military members in our community. So his representation, I believe, is key in this process because he cares a lot about Ceres. And,
So-
and it would be, I mean, if in the perfect world, I would love to have their office here in Ceres, but unfortunately it's in Turlock and that's out of
Right.
my hands. That's the only reason why I recommended Mr. King, because he does have a lot of input.
I understand
and a-
that.
And a lot of connections in the city of Ceres from Central Valley High School and Ceres High. These young men and women who are turning the age of 18 and going to the recruiter's office in
Right.
Turlock to become military members. So that's why I feel it's very important to have him on the committee. Even though, and just even though we only had 4 candidates, if there's any other members of the public, this is just my recommendation that that didn't have an opportunity to apply, that would love to be on this committee. If you guys can please step forward. But that's the only comment I had for you.
What I understand, but the same aspect. What about Jeff Benzinger? He's been in the city here for probably 30-something years. He's got a big influence on the community too. So if he was a veteran, would you accept him too? Because he doesn't live here. He lives in Modesto.
I don't think Mr. Jeff Benzinger has anything to do with this, but
But I mean, he could if he was a veteran, right? But he doesn't live in the community. So, I mean, Mr. Casey there, he lives in our community. And I didn't see anything. You mentioned something before about him, but I didn't see anything listed in the today's council meeting.
yeah, well, Mr. Casey came in after we started this process. So obviously I do.
But in all
He is
fair, you know,
listed, so there
if
you go.
these things transpire into something else and something later, I mean, you're going to have people from other places come in to make decisions for us. Again,
That's not my point, Mr. Yegley. I hope you
I understand your point, but Sergeant King, he does a good job. He's helped the city, I'm sure, by recruiting and stuff like that. But when it comes down to individual things in our own community, I don't think he should be there. Thank you.
I appreciate your opinion. Thank you, Mr. Yegley. Mr. Casey?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you.
Giving me the time. I had, previously requested that extend the cutoff into January because we hadn't had an opportunity to make a formal presentation to the 2 Veterans Associations, American Legion and the VFW. And I would like to continue to request that. And I also have to follow up with Mr. Weekly's suggestion. There's no doubt that Sergeant King is a wonderful individual. He has a very difficult job in recruiting young men to serve our country. But if it's going to be a Ceres ad hoc committee, I think every member of it should really reside in Ceres. And I appreciate your comment about the police. But the truth is, besides the banner, veterans, a lot of veterans need help. A lot of veterans don't recognize or they're not aware of all the benefits that are available to them. And if we can concentrate on the veterans here in Ceres, I think that's what the program should be. The banners are a good idea, question. And maybe Mr. Sergeant King or his next person that's a recruiter, maybe they can act as an advisory board, but we already have the county VA place on Coffee Road where we can ask for assistance. But I think it's important that the members, the requests, the applications be extended. And I think it's important that every member of the committee be a Ceres resident. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Klein?
Councilmember Casey, I can support your idea to hold this over to after the first of the year. But, you know, here's one concern I do have with the request of restricting Sergeant King from being a part of it. I think that we can put a notation in this to say that one individual spot on this committee will be reserved for the local recruiter, whether it's any branch of the service, because I think they can further assist us with active members and identifying active members. So I think that one stipulation could be that one spot on the Haddock committee is for a armed services recruiter to assist with that, and limited to that.
I agree, being that this program is active military and veterans. It's not just strictly for veterans, so I would agree to that, Mr.
But
If we
being a
could change
recruiter,
that.
he's an active member,
Correct.
so
yes.
he's entitled to it.
Absolutely.
But if you live out of this jurisdiction and you're not an active member in the service or a recruiter, then, well, let's say if you're not a recruiter, then you have, you know, we need to restrict it to our citizens of series.
Sounds like a good idea. If there's something that the council agrees on, you can make that verbiage depending on, Councilmember Rhino does have some questions as well.
I agree with Councilmember Casey that it should be extended because two very important organizations should have a say in this. And from what he says, they won't be having their meeting until, I think, sometime later in December or something. So we should wait for them to be able to apply if they want to. Initially, I also agreed that Sergeant King should be excluded because he doesn't live in Ceres, but both the mayor and Councilmember Klein brought up a good point that it doesn't necessarily have to be him or the Army recruiting office, but it should be someone from the military recruiting office. And they are in Turlock because as we were speaking, I remembered when my younger son went into the Army, he had to go into Turlock and talk to him. And so, yes, they do represent us, and they should have at least a member who is on this ad hoc.
Thank you, Councilmember.
All right, I have a couple things also. I can support leaving the application process open, like Mr. Casey said. I believe if we haven't had the ability to get out to those people and tell them what we're doing, then we should. I do want to make sure we remember that when we started this process, Mr. Yakely was in the room, and so was the mayor. This was to make sure we recognize the veterans and this effort with this committee for veterans. I originally believe, well, I still think that everybody on the committee should live in Ceres, 100%. But I can support Mr. Klein on having some way to have a recruiter on there. And maybe it's not an actual member, maybe it's a advisory role because they have access that we would probably need. So that's my take on it. Let's extend it. Let's make sure we get everybody out there the opportunity. Let's have everybody live in Ceres, and let's have an advisory role from a recruiter or whatever, however we would want that language to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. With that being said, if we can go ahead and make those. Go ahead, Mr. Warren. Why don't you step on up, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No problem.
I had the opportunity to speak with the American Legion commander the other day when this agenda item was posted. And he explained to me that he was waiting to speak to the members of their organization at their meetings, both VFW as well as American Legion. And there are probably some members there on the posts that would like to be members of this committee. And so they put that information out to their people. And also they have an email system. There's some members that have email. and actually are social media experts, but they would like to be included. He told me that his application wasn't turned in because he thought that this was kind of still up in the air and there was going to be some extension of time. So putting it over to the first of the year might be a good thing. And also, your number 9 spot here is for a staff position. And I would like to suggest possibly that it be Jeremy, our Parks, Public Works Director, because I'm sure his people are involved with the upkeep of our parks and also putting up banners and things on the light poles in our community. And he might be a good resource to be involved with this committee. I know the Whitmore Park has a nice memorial there for our veterans. And I think maybe some direction might go that way, and his staff is involved with that upkeep. So that would be my suggestion, that he be involved with us as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Does anybody else have any comments? Any members on Zoom?
I have another comment I forgot. I knew it was something else. Just to make sure that the mayor and Councilmember Casey are still part of the committee, correct? That's what we are.
Actually,
And also the
Mayor's
people that
well, it all
replied.
depends on, originally I wanted to be on the committee, but if it's the council would rather not me be on the committee, it's no difference.
I thought we had agreed that it was just going to be Councilmember Casey.
Right.
And
It was
gonna be a-
originally myself and the mayor, and I gave my position on the committee to Mr. Casey. So as far as I know, as I remember, it's still Mr. Casey and the mayor. Now, if the mayor wants to go a different direction, that's fine too.
I think last time we also mentioned that instead of me, maybe we'll have a staff member
Yes,
on the committee.
yes.
Alex, I think that's what we talked about last time. So I'll give up my position for a staff member if you're choosing, and I don't know what the status is with Jeremy, but we need to talk to him if he's available. I'll have you make that decision, Alex, as far as the staff is concerned. So once again, so if the council approves, we're going to go ahead and pick a date to extend the application, because I also support that. And also, as client stated, if the council approves, we'll place one open position for a recruiter to be on that. That's my direction.
So are we asking staff to bring it back to council the last meeting in January?
Would that be something that would be possible?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Last meeting in January.
Is there?
That work, we can do it by then. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Okay, so that's what we'll wind up doing, and we'll bring it back to council on the last meeting in January, with those two adjustments. Do we need to vote on that, Helen, or it's more of a direction?
No, it's direction, but I do think you probably want a date, an ending date for the application.
Specific date. What's that last city council meeting? Diane?
Second council meeting in January is January 20.
January 24th? Okay. So if we, there you go. So if we are going to extend the applications, council, what would be a date you guys want a couple
I would
days?
say 10 days before.
10 days before?
Would that give the city clerk enough time for the staff report?
If we normally would get the agenda out on the 19th. So if we can have the final filing date on Friday, the January 14th.
January
That'd be
14th.
plenty of time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good, Councilmember Casey. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead with the January 14th deadline for the application process, and then we'll go ahead and bring that back to council on January 24th. That is the direction. We're good, Diane? Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for the public input. Greatly appreciated. Moving on to new business. Resolution number 2021-129, ratifying the memorandum of understanding between the City of Ceres and Public Safety Mid-Managers Associations.
Good evening, Mayor and
evening.
Council. Tonight, staff are requesting approval of the Public Safety Mid-Manager MOU. The contract expired June 30th of 2021. The city has reached an agreement on all terms and conditions of employment with the Series Public Safety Mid-Managers Association, and on December 3rd, 2021, a tentative agreement was ratified by the group. Main provisions of the MOU of the agreement are as follows. It is a 3-year term. Wage increases in the first year to mirror the Police Officer Association with a 3% wage increase and a 9% equity adjustment the first full pay period following ratification and council approval. Year 2, a 3% wage increase, and year 3, a 3% wage increase. In addition to this, will eliminate the classic member pay, incentive pay. So we'll be removing that. They will no longer receive that. The classic members, which is all of the group, will also start paying the full employee retirement rate. Before they were only paying 50% of it, they will pick up the full amount. Distribution of ARPA funds in 2 payments, $5,000 for year 1, $5,000 for year 2, to mirror the other contracts that have went before you prior. We are also asking to add an educational pay. Page 9 of the MOU, section E is outlined. It will mirror the POA Association agreement. And then lastly, we are asking for a salary grade change effective July 1st of 2022. This is to prepare for the upcoming retirements that we may have in the command staff with the members in this group. And we think it would be beneficial to help with the recruitment purposes to slide the scale down. So we would make the current B step the new A step, and we would add the F step would change. The current members would slide down from if they're maxed out on F step, they would slide down to E step. So there would be no change in pay for the current members. It would be eligible for that increase based on the personnel rules. With that, I will take any questions.
Start off with the public. Does the public have any questions? Any members on Zoom? Any questions from council? Seeing none.
Move to approve resolution 2021-129.
In a second. Second.
For your second.
Roll call, please.
Council and Agency Member Casey.
Aye.
Council and Agency Member Rhino. Vice Mayor, Vice Chair Silvera.
Yes.
Council and Agency Member Klein.
I'd like to abstain because I was not part of any of the negotiations.
Mayor and Chairman Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with 1 abstention. Councilmember Klein.
Thank you. There is no discussion items. Is there any council referrals for today? Seeing none. Is there any reports? I have no reports. Any reports from the city council? Member Reiner?
Yes. We have a few staff members who are retiring in a few weeks, and I would just like to recognize those. The first one would be Jeremy Damas, our Director of Public Works. Not sure how long Jeremy has been here. I'm going to guess 11 or 12 years, but in that amount of time, he has responded to a lot of problems we've had in series, and I would like to thank him for always trying to be as responsive as possible, and I think he will definitely leave a big gap in our city organization. He has a lot of historical knowledge that is leaving with him. The next person I would like to recognize would be Terry Turner. He, in case some of you don't know, because he's he isn't well known generally because he's out at the wastewater treatment plant. He is supervisor out there. Terry has been with the city just about 30 years. He's worked his way up from an operator, probably even before an operator, whatever they were called 30 years ago. And he's worked his way up, and for a few years now, he's been a supervisor, and I'm not sure what will happen when he's gone, but hopefully things will continue to flow. The next person, I'm not sure if he's still leaving, but I believe he might be. That would be Steve Hallam, the redevelopment economic manager. He's scheduled to retire at the end of December. And even though he has been working remotely now for years, he has done more remotely than I know of some previous staff members who were redevelopment and economic, and he's done more remotely than they did when they were in the office. So I will miss him. I think he's done a really good job for us. And then the last thing I'd like to say is I'd like to wish everyone Merry Christmas and have a safe New Year.
Thank you, council member. City manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Wanted to extend a thanks to all of the recreation staff that helped off a hugely successful opening of Christmas Tree Lane and Parade, and thank the neighborhood for them such gracious hosts of this really community-wide event. So thank you to the staff and thank you to the neighborhood. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. Anything from the departments?
Yes, Mayor, I have an announcement to make. The Series Police Officers Association spent this past Saturday doing Shop with the Cop at the new Walmart. They took out 10 families. They were able to get needs and wants. It was a pretty good turnout. Also, this Saturday, the 18th, we'll be doing our annual toy delivery. So you'll see plenty of black and whites, our SWAT truck. We're not doing raids. If you get any questions, we are not raiding the city, but we are going to different areas throughout the city to deliver toys as we do. And that will be preceded by gift wrapping at a location to be determined. But it's a pretty good event, and it brings out joy in a lot of people who participate in that.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Any other department heads? Jeremy, I believe you have your hand up. Would it be
I
by
do.
accident?
No, it's on purpose this time.
Nice, thank you.
I have two reminders. One is that the 1st of January, the new garbage collection service begins, the new 3-can system. And secondly, due to the upcoming storms, the Public Works Department has the sand and bags placed out off of the Herald side of the corporation yard. And feel free to get them. And I just want to say thank you to everybody, and what a great staff that we have. And it's been a true joy. It's been almost 13 years. Real close, Linda. Thank you. And I wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate you. Last but not least, County Supervisory. Welcome, Chance.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Great to be here with you this evening. As Jeremy mentioned, we do have sandbags available to the public. I know my office has gotten a couple inquiries regarding flooding and such. So whether they're in a county island, a county pocket, or in the incorporated city of Ceres, they're more than welcome to get sandbags at 1760 Morgan Road over at our Public Works facility. So anybody who would like a sandbag or needs a sandbag, please utilize that as a resource. Other than that, I just want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Have a good evening.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you, everybody, for attending our meetings, and we will see everyone next year. This meeting is adjourned.